gate, is it true? First gate is it true? Is what I'm saying true? And maybe it is, but then we go to the next one, but is it necessary? It may be true, but is it necessary? And then finally, is it kind? And these three gates are the guardian of those gates is the heart. So we want to really filter it through the heart. Is it true, necessary, and kind? And this is a great general rule for the God gossip we want to spread around. But we will also want to get how important it is to have the words that we're speaking to ourselves go through these same gates. Really important to not be having negative self-talk towards ourselves. There were two snakes having a conversation, and the one snake asked, "Are we poisonous?" The other one said, "Well, you bet we are. Why do you ask?" And he answered, "Because I just bit my tongue." So that's not good. You don't want to do that. Have you ever bitten your own tongue, anyone? This is what negative self-talk does. And so the words we speak have power, and we can either bless ourselves and others with loving, kind, affirming words, heart-centered words, or we can do the opposite. We have the choice. So is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And so if we look around at our own personal reality, what's showing up in our world, what we're seeing is what we have previously decreed. Imagine that. You've been given authority and dominion over your own personal reality. And so what you say is what you experience in your kingdom. Our words have consequences. They really do. But does this mean that we're responsible for every single thing that's showing up in our world or for other people's behavior? Did we somehow create the effects of this behavior? Did we, draw this to ourselves? No, when we believe that, it can become metaphysical malpractice. So this is not about blame. It's not about beating ourselves up if something's going on that we don't like in our world, but it is about responsibility. It's about using our power to transform our own experience of whatever is happening. Do you see the difference there? That we can look around and see what is, and now we can use our power of power to transform our own experience of whatever it is. And so the words we speak have a definite effect on our own experience, our own personal reality. Now, I'm one of those weird people who just loves language. I love new words. I especially like learning new words. I like to learn their origin. It all fascinates me. When I was a kid in school, I won the spelling bee in the second grade. That was my claim to fame back then. And I can still remember that moment of winning it. It's just like this high point in my life, Everyone used to call me Dictionary Jane in school, and not in any sort of admiring way, I assure you. I could look up the words the fastest in the class. And so I fully admit to being a word nerd. But words are very powerful. They're like lasers of thought, you see. Before we actually speak the words, we have to gather our thoughts together in a coherent fashion, hopefully, and then express them. And it's in that gathering and expression that there's a laser-like effect that gets created. And to gather our thoughts in this coherent way, we want to use the heart. We want to filter through the heart. And the more we practice that, the more we develop the heart as a portal to this deeper dimension within us. The wisdom of the heart becomes accessible to us. And we come into alignment with the spirit within us. We start to bring ourselves to that same vibratory signature when we are letting the heart guide us in our words. James Allen, in his book, As You Think, writes this: we're made or unmade by ourselves. In the armory of thought, we forge the weapons by which we destroy ourselves. We also fashion the tools with which we build for ourselves heavenly mansions of joy, strength, peace. In the same inner space, we can forge weapons or we can build mansions. And it's the heart that can guide us in whatever it is we are creating and making happen out there. So the words we choose can have the power to bless or curse. I mean, have you ever said something you regretted? Anyone? Anybody out there? Have you ever spoken in haste? Have you ever spoken in anger and then tried to repair the damage from what was said? There's a saying attributed to Andy Rooney to keep your words sweet because you might just have to eat them. So keep your words sweet. You might have to eat them someday. So just imagine with me this morning that every word you speak is a message to the universe. You're sending out the message, and those messengers have the power to accomplish whatever mission you send them on. They don't return empty-handed, we might say. As the New Thought pioneer and leader, Ernest Holmes says this, infinite mind is the actor, you're the announcer. You're the announcer. So what are you announcing to the universe about your life? And what's the message that you're conveying? What is the message? What are you decreeing in your world? Because our subconscious mind's always listening, it's always listening to our words and then busily playing them back, playing back whatever's programmed into it. And it's like a recorder that's always on. It doesn't judge. It just listens, and acts on it. So we need to be very mindful of the words coming out of our mouth. Will Rogers said, live in such a way that you wouldn't be ashamed to sell your parrot to the town gossip. I think it's a great sort of rule to live by. So we want to stick to God gossip for sure. An encouraging word can make the difference for someone who's down. It can lift them up. It can help them to make it through the day. And of course, the opposite is true as well. What does a discouraging word do to someone who's down? What does that do? And often those destructive words are aimed inward, right? They're aimed inward. Have you noticed this at all? Now, of course, it's not just the words we say. It's what we radiate with those words that counts. It's the emotional tone and the quality. It's the intensity of feeling. It's the attitude. It's the belief behind it. That's what gives our words their great creative power right there. So what are we saying to ourselves? What are we believing about ourselves? What are we saying and believing about the world? About the other, these people that disagree with what I think. We never know the extent of the effect of our words, both encouraging and discouraging, both in the inner realm and in the outer realm. So we just need to choose them carefully. And the power of spirit within us is set in motion by those words. Isn't that exciting? I mean, that's our divine power right there. So when you speak, do it with authority, do it with confidence, feel the power of it. We are all power transformers in a sense. We're source in expression. Source is the actor, we're the announcer. So let your words reflect the truth of who you are. Myrtle Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, certainly used affirmative words to help heal her body. At a lecture one night, she heard the now famous phrase in Unity circles, I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. And you know what? Those words, they touched her. They landed for her. They weren't just words. She resonated with that truth. And using that affirmation, she spent 2 years on a healing journey and eventually was cured of tuberculosis, which was a death sentence in those days. So listen to these words. I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit addiction. I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit an overweight body. I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit an unhealthy, unhappy relationship. I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit lack. So how would you end that sentence? How would you end that sentence? Think about it for a moment, because I'm going to ask us all to say that Now you can keep yourself muted, of course, and this is just for you at home, but I'm going to ask you to speak that with me. I'm a child of God and therefore do not inherit. And then you speak the word that ends that sentence. You fill in the blank for you. Now, if it's possible for you to stand up when you're doing this, please do so. And if you do, put your hand on your hip. See, we're wanting some attitude here. Even if you're sitting down, you can put your hand on your hip, right? So let's say it together and you add your word at the end. I am a child of God and therefore do not inherit lack, whatever you've decided, all right? All right, so you can return to your seats if you stood up. So again, it's not just the words, it's the attitude, it's the power behind them, it's the emotion that is behind it. So you want to believe this. You know, you want to, these words need to be backed up with belief and conviction. You really want to get into the belief and you want to send them forth with that power to see them come to fruition. You know, the reason Myrtle Fillmore was so successful to heal was because she did a complete about face and only affirmed words of healing and love and forgiveness to her body. In fact, she asked every cell to forgive her for ever believing it was anything less than whole. She had spent her entire life up until then believing that she was sickly, had always been sickly. She would die at a young age from tuberculosis. She turned it right around and did not spend another moment talking about illness or lack. And it took 2 years of that, but she was completely healed. Now, she was highly motivated. She'd been given 6 months to live, and she had small children at home, boys at home. But she saw so clearly the power of our words that she believed that even the walls of our homes would soak up negative comments and urged everyone to just never use them. Now, that may or may not be true, but here I do know this. They can get stuck in the walls of my mind, certainly. So when I constantly talk about my troubles and illness, I stay stuck in a place of perceived powerlessness and victimhood. And when I can't make changes in my life, it's because I'm stuck in that story. I'm stuck in the story and I just can't move, and I stay stuck in it by talking about it. The baseball coach, Tommy Lasorda, said, don't tell your friends your problems. Half of them don't care and the other half are glad you got them. He spoke, he told it like it is. Now, that does not mean that we keep everything bottled up, of course, you know, or that we ignore things that are happening that we don't like and that we kind of pretend that all is well. That's not at all what we want to do. In fact, part of our healing can be to tell the story, especially if we're going through a loss of some kind, or grieving, or trauma, or deep hurt. You know, we certainly want to express that to someone we trust and love. But there comes a time when I discover, you know, I'm just stuck in that story. I can't get out of it. And that's the time when we want to make the choice to focus on what is healing. See, there's a big difference between spiritual denial and psychological denial. Psychological denial is closing our eyes and pretending that there's no problem, refusing to see it. There's an old joke about a unity person that dies, ends up in hell, and walks around saying, this isn't hell and I'm not hot. See, it's not that. Spiritual denial, on the other hand, does not deny the fact that there is some kind of challenging circumstance in our life, but it does deny the power it has over us. You see the difference there? So we can see the fact, you know, something's in need of healing here. And then with spiritual denial, we can know the truth that it really has no power over me. In the face of it, we affirm, I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. That's the key to this. There's only one presence and one power. That means nothing and no one is against me. I am an expression of that power. I have source power within me, and I can tap into that and change my life. When we start to speak words like that with conviction and belief, we can change our lives. And by holding on to that truth, we can use our power constructively and create a personal reality that is nothing short of miraculous. It can be that much of a turnaround as it was in Myrtle's life. Now, you might be thinking, oh, now, wait a minute. I've been affirming prosperity since 1987, and I am not seeing a whole lot of change in my life. When that happens, we can usually discover there's a belief behind it that is sabotaging our way, right? And so if I'm affirming prosperity, but believing in lack, well, the belief is going to win hands down. It's going to win hands down. As the author Richard Bach says, argue for your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours. So affirmations don't work because there's any kind of magic around the words themselves. They work when they help us change a belief. That's how they work. So we can use what's showing up in our personal reality to shine a light on whether there is some sort of internal limiting belief and what it might be. And if we have a stubborn belief hanging around, instead of arguing internally for our limitations, we need to turn that around, turn around that belief. The disciple that metaphysically represents power is Philip, which means lover of horses. We're talking horsepower here. Horsepower. He was very powerful. In the book of Acts, the story is told that through the spoken word, he was able to heal the sick. He sometimes had trouble understanding the spiritual meaning behind it all, but that did not get in his way. It didn't hinder his power of the spoken word. We don't have to know how it all works. We just have to use it with belief, conviction, and emotion behind it. Get that powerhouse behind our words. And we have the opportunity every single moment to choose words of truth, of kindness, of love, of compassion, of blessing, every moment. And we have the choice every moment of seeing the events in our lives as blessings instead of focusing on what's not working. What's not working? There's a story told of a king who was suffering from a painful ailment, and his astrologer told him the only cure was for him to find a happy, contented man who never complained or spoke negative words, and to get his shirt for the king to wear. That's his cure. And so the royal messengers were sent out through the king's realm to search for one with orders to bring back his shirt for the king. Months passed, months and months. Finally, the messengers returned, but without a shirt. And the king said, "Did you find such a man?" And they said, "Yes, we found one." And the king said, "Well, where is his shirt?" And they said, "He doesn't have one." So no matter what's happening in our lives, you and I have the power within us to work with that, to speak those positive healing words and uplifting words. And we can change our lives through this. We truly can. So, quick quiz. What do the following people have in common? Ralph Waldo Emerson, Lao Tzu, Mahatma Gandhi, Stephen Covey, the Buddha, and Margaret Thatcher's dad. Well, they're all attributed to saying a different version of this quote. I will keep my thoughts positive because my thoughts become my words. I will keep my words positive because my words become my actions. I will keep my actions positive because my actions become my values. I will keep my values positive because my values become my destiny. Back in my karate days, this used to be our creed, our student creed, that we would recite together as a group at the beginning of every single class. In fact, when I'm saying them, I keep wanting to go into some kind of karate stance because there's this visceral memory of speaking these words every time. These words, the words we habitually speak with conviction and emotion, actually become the pathway that we ultimately travel in our lives. So today's words become tomorrow's experience of reality. They become our destiny. So let's keep them sweet, shall we? And if we don't like what's showing up, we have the authority to change our experience of it and decree what it is that we do want. So I invite us all to stop biting our tongues with negative self-talk, to find out what's working in our world and speak about that, to be impeccable with our word. If you remember the 4 agreements, to be impeccable with your word, speak only words of truth, both the ones we speak out loud and the ones we speak inside. And let's start a whole lot of God gossip, shall we? I just want to invite you this week to spread around God gossip, and let your heart guide you through the 3 gates. So what is your God gossip? The 3 gates are, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And let's, with our words, build mansions in our lives. And so it is. So let's take all of this into our hearts as we have this time of meditation. So I invite us all to take a nice deep breath and just relax into our seats or wherever we find ourselves. Just kind of settle in and move your attention downward through the body. We experience so much of our life from an awareness in the head, and we want to really start sinking down to mine the wisdom of the body. So we move our attention downward, 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 and until we get to the heart. As your awareness moves to the heart space, you can put your hand on your heart if that helps. And now just begin to follow your breathing in and out. Let it anchor you in this now moment. Now bring into your awareness someone or something that you deeply love, that you really care about. That when you think about this person, or maybe a pet or a cherished memory, your heart just warms in gratitude. And let that feeling of gratitude start to rise up from within you. Feel your heart warming. Let it bring a smile to your face. And now let it expand and radiate through the body. Just notice this feeling of gratitude, just blessing every single cell of your body. Feel them responding to this healing vibration of appreciation. Invigorated, getting the message that you are healthy and whole, that you are loved. Feel that gratitude just completely fill your body and move beyond your body as we create an energetic field of coherent harmony. So we open ourselves to the deeper dimension within us, the heart intelligence, the wisdom of the body, the intuitive guidance. It's all available to us when we let our hearts open like this. It becomes a portal that brings us into alignment with the deeper truth of who we are. And so we allow that truth to be expressed through each one of us, knowing that God is our source, that there is no separation, that at the deepest essence of all beings, all life, we are connected, interdependent, interbeing. And so continue to breathe into the heart, feel that gratitude continue to flow through you. Let it go beyond your body. And just imagine we are surrounding this planet, this healing vibration. As we become silent just for a moment. And so we take a breath and we give thanks for this time to be the change that we're seeking in the world, to bring love and compassion to places where there is none, to bring kindness to the world, to speak words of truth, peace, oneness, and to remember the power that we have to be the change. And so it is. Amen.